So I'm trying to move away from doing videos like this overall, and just I don't like doing vlogs as much. But this one I feel like is a little bit important to make for anyone out there who needs to look into this. Um, Stay away from, not at all costs. It might actually be a good thing for some people, and I'll get to that. But in general, stay away from the company Vector Marketing. If you get an opportunity to have an interview with them or something like that, in general, they're not evil or anything, but in general, stay away from them because I don't know whether or not you would consider it a scam, but it most certainly is not what it looks like whenever you're looking into the company. So let's just start off with from the beginning here. I know and have known for a while now, I know some people who work in jobs like this, that online telemarketing where you can work from home is a thing. That's all I have to do there. I know that's a job, and it can be a pretty good job. I've heard that from some of the people who I know who work in that position. They say it's a pretty good job. You just sit down in a quiet room for however long your shift is, and you take calls, make calls, all sorts of stuff like that. And you can help people, use a computer, help people solve a problem if they have one with something involved with what your company is selling or, whatever. So it's obviously a real job. So I got a call from a number I did not recognize a few days ago, and I answered it, and it was from Vector Marketing. I did not know their name at the time, but that's unimportant. Vector Marketing, basically, they said that I had been personally recommended by someone I had not talked to in 2 years that I went to high school with. I had been personally recommended, and that they wanted to interview me for their job. They said they had several positions open and they were looking to fill some, and that I would take priority. They made sure to talk it up. They talked it up saying $20 an hour, work from home. They didn't say telemarketing. They said they really didn't say much actually. They said it was a work from home marketing job. Basically, is all they told me. $20 an hour. They wanted to do an interview with me, and that they talked up the fact that I would have priority over people who were just trying to get hired into the position because I had been recommended by someone, which was cool. I thought that was really cool, so I was super excited to do this job interview. I scheduled it for a time where I could handle it. I didn't think about it at the time, but the schedule, they asked me for specific times, which I didn't think about it at the time because that's happened before. Like with job interviews I've gone to in the past, they do have tight interview schedules. So, they ask you, like, okay, these are the slots we have open. Which one of those can fit you? So they asked me for very specific times on a Monday and a Tuesday, and I selected a Wednesday time because I wasn't free on either of those days. They had a Wednesday time that they were doing. So then the next day, I went in and I started to look at. This was a Tuesday, so the day before the interview, I went in and I started to look at their company because I wanted to know a little bit about it from experience in general. If you're going to get interviewed, it's a good idea to look into the company that you're being interviewed by. Maybe you already knew a little bit about them, but especially if you don't know much, just in general, look into the company and learn some stuff about them so that when they ask you questions, especially if they ask you if you know anything about the company, which is something I've been asked before in interviews, or like what the company's values are or something like that. It's a common interview question that you can answer that type of stuff. So that's what I was planning on doing, was just increasing my chances of doing a good interview, because I figured out that my friend from a long time ago, I wouldn't consider them a friend now, but my friend from a long time ago had basically just copy pasted their entire contacts by accident into a recommendations thing. So that's why I got recommended. So when I learned that, I was just like, okay, so I'm just going to treat this like a normal job interview. I don't have any kind of advantage because there might be a lot of people coming for this interview that this person knew. So anyways, anybody in the context. So I was preparing for it and stuff like that, but as I researched it, there was a huge red flag, which is that I watched a little about video that they have on their homepage, that Vector Marketing has on their homepage, for not homepage, but on their page for hiring people. And I was watching the video talking about what you'd be doing, and for the first half of the video, they don't tell you. Then I got to the second half, and it was about the whole company is based around Cutco, which was a little weird to me. Cutco is just a knife company; they sell knives, and it was a little weird to me because I was assuming that Vector Marketing was a marketing company that had to do with a lot of different companies, probably had contracts with different companies to make advertisements, maybe, or just to have sales reps, you know, talk to people or answer questions, you customer service with different companies. Not customer service, that's on the wrong track, but I thought I was going to be marketing for whatever company they had contracts with, not necessarily just one company. So that was a little strange to me that it was a marketing company that only worked with a single product. That to me, and I don't know if that's standard. I haven't worked in this industry, so that to me was a little weird. I could be wrong about that, but anyways, so that was the first thing that was a little off about that video when I realized that. But the biggest thing was that the video was an advertisement video. You know, I'm watching this video expecting to be told that I will be doing advertising and marketing for whatever products, even if it's just one, you know, for this product. But instead, it felt like I was being advertised to, making it seem like this company is insanely profitable and incredible to work at. And that just felt wrong. With the experience I've had before looking into companies, I've never experienced where they're like, yeah, they try and make it look like they're a good place to work, and they'll shove that in your face when you try and work somewhere, but never to the level that it was straight up like a YouTube ad that's trying to get you to buy something. But instead of trying to get you to buy something, it was trying to get you to work for them. And it was really strange. That whole aspect of it was really strange, and you were following the course of a woman. You can find this video on their page probably, unless they update it and change it with a new one, but you're following the course of a woman who works there and is making a ton of money, and she's treating it like it's the life. You know, it's a great place to work, and she's never done anything better than selling knives. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but and if that's the case for her, that's great, and I understand why they would pick her to advertise their company. But it's just the expectation, like, it's like they were trying to put in my mind that I should expect heaven to work at this company. That's what that video's goal seemed like to me, and that was a red flag to me. So then I started to look into their company elsewhere, outside of their web pages, and I found a whole bunch of people online saying that vector marketing is a scam. Vector marketing is full of it, and the entire thing is kind of a shit show. And basically what I learned through looking at other people's stories throughout the years when they've done in-person interviews, and then like what they were going to do with me, which was an online interview. And I did notice on the homepage that there was like a Zoom meeting type thing that I saw. I didn't realize that was what the interview was going to be. I didn't show up to the interview, but basically what I learned from looking at all these other stories online is that that's what they do, is they do group interviews, and they don't tell you ahead of time, like they didn't tell me that they were going to do group interviews. There was just one picture of a Zoom meeting with no context, or what looked like essentially a Zoom meeting, like I said, with no context. So I just thought it was a meeting, not the interview. But now looking back on it, it was on their hiring page. It was probably a picture of the interview, but again, they didn't say that on the webpage. And they didn't say that in the phone call setting up the interview. So it was really strange that is really strange. Just nothing but group interviews. And then they pull people aside from people's stories that they talked about what happened in person. They would then pull people aside for 1 to 5 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes, somewhere in that range, to talk to them in person. And they would let them know by the end of it whether or not they got the job. And a lot of the stories I've seen online, maybe because the people who didn't get the job didn't care to talk about it, they never got far enough to realize it was a scam, or you've been given some false information, or just not given enough information would be more accurate. But anyway, so most of the people I've seen did in fact get the job, and it seems like a lot of people end up getting the job, which is, again, strange, because they say that they have a lot of seats to fill, but it is strange to me, because they're a marketing company that only sells one product. Why do they have so many employees? Why do they need so many employees? It seems a little strange. I would expect there to be a lot of local employees in different, like, in near different buildings that they have for marketing purposes and stuff like that. I would expect a lot of employees if they were selling a whole bunch of different products for different companies, and they were marketing. They were a marketing company that did that, but they're just for Cutco. They're just partnered with Cutco. And I don't understand why they need a whole bunch of local people, because from what I was getting during my research of the company, they have a lot of employees in a lot of different areas. It's not like I'm near a hub for Cutco. It's just straight up, they all over the place. This is what they do. They try to hire in mass, and I don't know how often they do that. But it was again a little strange that they needed that many employees, and that was something I was catching on to before I started looking into them further. When I was watching the video and were having a meeting that looked like it had 20 to 30 people in it, and again, these are all local people who are working locally for Cutco. Um, it was a little strange. Then the next step is you go to unpaid training, which isn't the weirdest thing in the world. I've heard of unpaid training. I've personally, every job I've worked 3 different jobs in my life so far. Everyone that I've worked had some form of pay for the training. Even if it was like a little bit less than you'd be paying when you're on the clock, when you actually get the job, and I think that happened a little bit with one of my jobs, but the training didn't take very long. It was just like a day of training and just a few hours. It wasn't even a full day of work. In general, you should be paid for training in general. It's not school. You're not going to learn general education. You're learning hyper specific stuff for the job. You've been hired for the job. You're just getting trained so you can get on your feet and work. I don't think it's a sin not to pay people for training. It really just depends upon the situation of the company, what the work is. If you know what you're going in for and you know that you're going to be cemented in this job and you just need to learn some stuff, maybe then you wouldn't be paid for training. But I don't know. I'm not fully, I guess, educated on how important it is to pay people for training. I don't necessarily think it's a sin, assuming it's not illegal to not do that. But I do think you should be paid for training, because it just kind of seems like you're still working for the company when you're doing training, in a way, at least. So anyways, that's besides the point. They have unpaid training for like a week. You do the training. I haven't heard a lot of details, or I don't remember a lot of details because I didn't do it personally, about what the training is like. But what I do know is that essentially the next step, and the part that really bothers me about the company, beyond all that, once you get past that, and it makes a lot of things begin to make sense. What the company does is, unlike, a normal marketing company that I would expect, where people call me if they have an issue with a product, or I call them if we're trying to sell them on a product. That's what I was expecting, but I was expecting those numbers to be funneled through the company, right? So someone who's trying to buy something, they go to a website, maybe they put their phone number in if they're interested in something, and then the company has a marketing employee call them, and they provide that number to the employee, and you call them. Vector marketing doesn't do that at all. You are completely responsible for the marketing of the company if you work there. In other words, you try to sell their product to people that you know in your life, like your family members and friends, or people in your neighborhood if you want to become a door-to-door salesman or something like that. That's what you do. It's essentially a high school fundraiser type thing, like band fundraiser or a middle school fundraiser, except it's for an actual company, and that's how they operate. They get their employees to sell to the people that they know. And that, to me, makes a lot of sense why they want so many employees, because they want you to go to your parents or to your cousins or your siblings or friends and ask them to buy shit from you for a company. And it's just a little ridiculous, because you know that the company's making way more money off of each purchase than you are. So if you're asking your parents for this, if you're like 16 to 18, maybe still living with your parents, and you want a job and you get this job and you're asking your own parents to buy this stuff, if they buy it, that's a net loss for the family. I mean, they could have just given you that money instead of you getting paid, I don't know, 15 to 20 bucks an hour during a sale, however much they pay you, and maybe you get like, I don't know, 5% of the sale money. I don't know. I didn't get that far in the process, and that's kind of more, it's not information they openly disclose as how exactly the pay works. But regardless, the company obviously makes profit, otherwise it wouldn't exist, off of that sale. Your parents could have just given you that money instead of you having to try and sell them on something that ends up being a net loss for the family anyway. That the idea of just joining a company so that they can profit off of your family and friends is really shitty to me. It's really shitty. And yet yes, I've heard the other side of the story. I've been researching the company a good bit, and I've heard the other side of the story. People who actually enjoy working there, and that's why I say it's not necessarily evil, and it's not necessarily not for everyone. Because if you work there long enough, apparently during meetings you'll get recommendations, not like recommendations of people wanting to work at the company, but recommendations of people to sell to, and you can then, from other sources, not directly from the company, because why would they lift a finger, but you'll get resources from other connections of people you work with and stuff like that, of who you can sell to, and it becomes much less personal to who you're trying to sell stuff to. But that's only if you get good at selling to the people that you know. So unless you live in a rich family or wealthy family who can afford to buy, might I add, very expensive cutlery, very, very expensive, um, unless you know people who can buy that stuff just because they want to help you get a promotion, really no other reason, um, unless you live with people or know people like that personally, and you have their phone number and you think that you can sell them on something, or they'll buy it just because, again, they want to help you at your job and they don't actually care about the product, then you are not going to be a good fit for the job. I mean, that's just a fact. I don't know how they work with people who are unable to sell stuff, but most people that I've seen post stories online, they quit the job within a few days of working there because they realize what is actually going on and what they actually have to do. And, that's not made clear during the interview or even the training process, I don't think. Or maybe during the training process is when you realize you're going to be selling to family and friends. But anyways, that's really the whole point of this video. I just wanted to talk about all of this because for anyone out there who is looking at the company Vector Marketing, maybe you saw them in an ad or you got recommended by someone to work there, do not work there unless you have family and or friends that are wealthy, can buy that kind of shit from you, and you're okay with them doing that instead of just giving you half of that money that they're spent, $500 for a few kitchen knives or a kitchen knife set, or they could give you $100, and that's more than you would make off of that sale probably. It's up to you, but I would suggest not doing that, because most people who work there, not everyone's going to get all those resources and begin getting recommendations of people to sell to. Most people who work there probably will work there until they can't stand it anymore, or will quit pretty quickly. Or, they work there until they're not making enough money for the company and the company ditches them because they can't sell it to their family and friends because either they don't want to, or their family and friends aren't going to buy that. Because I personally wouldn't. Nothing against Cutco. I'm sure they make good stuff. I still think it's way too overpriced for some kitchen knives and some cutlery. I think it's way too overpriced for that, personally. I wouldn't be comfortable selling it. I wouldn't be comfortable buying it. So I don't think I would have worked there even if that wasn't the case and they actually just wanted me for a marketing position at a normal way and they provided me phone numbers and everything. I still don't think I personally would have worked there because I wouldn't feel comfortable selling that. I don't want to buy it, much less sell it to other people. But you do you. Again, I don't think the company is evil. In fact, it's kind of a smart tactic, basically turning their employees into fundraisers for their own company. I guess it's smart to make money for the company, but just know that that's how the company works. And if you're looking for a job there, that's what you're getting into. So I wouldn't suggest working there, personally. I wouldn't want to, and I wouldn't suggest it. That's all. Thank you for watching. Go do some stuff that makes you uncomfortable, because it'll make you more comfortable in your own shoes, and I will catch you in the next one.